I need confirmation of the agenda. Biden and Richmond Athinga. All in favor? Carried. Disclosure of pecuniary interest, if any. None noted. Moving to the consent agenda. Nothing to pull out. For consent agenda. One motion. Approval of the moving the consent agenda. Councillor Syke, Councillor Vauden. All in favor? Carried. Okay. 6.1.1, the BIA 2017 Board of Management and Executive. The Council of the Township of North Huron hereby approved the election of the 2017 BIA Board of Management and the appointment of the BIA Executive. Do I have a mover? Councillor Knott. Councillor Vauden, all in favor? Carried. 6.1.2, the Wingham BIA. That the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby approved the election of the 2017 Wingham BIA Board of Management and appointment of the BIA Executive. Councillor Richmond Athinga, Deputy Reeve Campbell, all in favor? Carried. Moving to 7.1, and that the Minister of Municipal Affairs request for feedback regarding exemption of the modernizing of Ontario's Municipal Legislation Act 2017 endorsement requirement, and that this is asking for that we either support point 1, where you would have 25 electors endorse person's application to run in the municipal election, or point 2, the number of electors in the municipality that would be appropriate as a threshold for an exemption to apply for if you wanted something less than the 25. Councillor Knott.
You know, I'm glad that they actually came forward. As I was thinking about this afterwards, and in a large municipality, I mean, it would be very easy for someone to probably get 25 signatures. However, in smaller towns, municipalities like we're faced with here, it really precludes anybody who's new to the area from participating, because it may be very difficult for them to find those 25. The question is, do they have to get none, or do you reduce the amount to 3 or 4 or 5 people, and on what basis? Somebody moving into a place like Blythe who might want to participate might have a hard time finding 25 people. Even in Wingham, it might be hard. I really I really think that it's seriously considered that be waived. What size municipality? I don't know. I mean, there's huge variances in the size of municipalities. But my feeling is, I think something has to be done about it. I think it's going to restrict those who are relatively new to the area from participating, and I think that would be a shame.
Councillor Syke.
So I guess I have a question on how does it restrict somebody from learning from engulfing themselves in the municipality. So as anybody, you have the right to go and educate yourself about the municipality and the people around it. Go to events, go to people, go to their door, whatever the case may be. How does that exclude somebody from doing that? 25 people in a municipality of like we have 3,000 people here in Wingham. There's 1,500, 2,000 in Blythe and East Molly. I don't know how that it excludes people, other than the fact that if you don't want to make that leap to go and be public and be known and well known and grace yourself in the business of being in the public eye, you're not going to get anybody to know who you are, regardless of whether you get 25 to elect to put you. You're not even going to get 25 votes. So the question is how. I don't see how it excludes somebody. I think it makes people be accountable to running in a public office, to understand what that means to be. 25 people doesn't seem to be a lot in my opinion. But again, I don't know what council members by new. Like, are you expecting somebody who's been in the municipality less than 2 weeks or 3 months or what? I don't know what the new means. So I'm just not sure. I don't think it excludes anybody. I think it just makes them have to put some work into it before they sign or put their name in, and then you don't have the people where they have no support and are going in there anyways and basically adjusting themselves for whatever the reason they have.
Councillor Vaughn.
I think the 25 is a barrier. Even 10 is probably a barrier that some will have to overcome. But it seems to me that it's a very, very difficult thing to get people to think about taking on the task of council. I know over the past years that I've been on, I've been trying to get younger people to sign up or to take an interest and it's very, very difficult to do that. So I think that we should reduce any barrier that can be reduced. I'm not sure that a member who can get 25 signatures is necessarily any better than the one who could only get 10. But so I think it'd be worthwhile considering that in case, in some instances, it becomes the barrier that keeps somebody from not choosing to run.
Deputy Reeve.
I think the 25 would be a barrier. When I first started, you had to have so many names on your nomination list. But for some of our ones that are late runners, they come up and pick up their forms, and all of a sudden, I got to find 25 people to sign this thing. A new person would probably discourage them from running. I'm not saying it's a problem to go and get 25 names, but I'm just saying for somebody new wanting to become involved in local politics, this is their first barrier that they're going to run up against. There's going to be more afterwards, but that's going to be the first one. And I think I really feel the number should be reduced.
Councillor Knott.
Just to address your problem, what do I consider to be new? I think that anybody that's lived in the municipality for less than a year, or even 2 years, is new. The other problem they face is that a great many of them, for instance, in Blythe, don't work in Blythe. They work elsewhere, so they have travel time. They don't have as much time available to them as those who are resident and work in the municipality or in the area. Some of them may go to Goddard, some of them may go, there are people I know that go all the way up to the east here. They go past Howick. There's quite a bit of time involved. Got neighbors who are truck drivers who are on the road 3, 4, 5 days, 7 days. Very difficult for them to fit that in. Now, if it's an election campaign just prior to, I'm sure they'll probably take vacation or something. But new, I think, is an issue. And to even go further, to be honest with you, I think anytime you ask, this is supposed to be a democratic society. The reality is, if I decide I want to run, it doesn't matter whether you support me or not. I should have the opportunity to run if I so choose to take the risk of putting in my deposits and so on and so forth. So throwing up a barrier like this, I'm not really in favor of it. I don't care whether it's 25 signatures or not. That's irrelevant. The point is you're putting a barrier in front of somebody that would preclude them from running in a democratic election. And I find that a little bit offensive on top of everything.
Councillor Sutton.
So part of that, the government hasn't, at least suitable to me, not necessarily the 25 signatures. How does one confirm that the 25 signatures are real? Like, irregardless of whether there's a barrier or not, who's responsible, which I believe it is the clerk and the officer to do that. How is one supposed to know that? So irregardless of whether it's a barrier or not, there's other circumstances, other issues with this 25 or 10 or 5. I don't know whether the province is asking to change their regulation from 25 to none or what.
I don't have one.
So I don't know whether they're asking with what an exemption would be. I don't know whether that means there is, you can go to nothing. I don't think so. I don't know, but you know, there's other issues with this whole getting nominations just by being the barrier. I don't. Again, if the council believes it's a barrier, then so be it. I don't think it is, but that's my opinion. That's my opinion only.
Councillor Knott.
I do believe that there is a form that I saw that requires them to be an elector before they can sign for you. So they have to be a registered elector in the municipality in which you're going to run. And the clerk would have access to that information when they fill in the form and sign for you. They have to give full disclosure details, name, address, etc. So that's, yeah, I don't know what the, as far as I'm concerned, I could make it 0 and I'd be just as happy. I'm uncomfortable with the whole concept to begin with. But I already know a couple of people that have expressed interest in running in the next election, and they don't work in the area. So I think it would be a little bit of a burden upon them to have to do that in addition to everything else. And I do not want to discourage them from running. I think they should. It's healthier. The more people we have running, and yes, we do run the risk of having the odd strange individual put their name forward. But like I said, it's a democratic country. God bless them. If they want to put up their $100 and risk losing it, that's up to them.
Councillor Vaughan.
I think there's a value in requiring some name placement to establish that you at least talk to somebody in the community and you've expressed an interest to them, and they have expressed an interest in you in terms of signing a paper. I think there's a value there, but I guess I'd split the difference between the 25 and none, somewhere about around 10. I think it's a valuable resource.
Councillor Hallahan.
I agree with Councillor Vaughan and Councillor Stipe. I don't think if somebody was going to run, I don't think it's impossible to get 25 names. I know you're saying the lower block, but you're only maybe looking at 12 families. It's not like you're going all over for 25 names. You don't know that. I would assume. And then if somebody was coming in and couldn't get 25 names, or doesn't know enough of people with 25 names, that new into the area, I don't think it's a barrier, personally.
Councillor Syed.
So through you, is is the province looking for council specific, like, are they looking for information from councillors, or like it just says hearing back from you, but it doesn't really say whether it's individualized comments or council comments or what. And I know it was directed at the clerk, so I guess my question is, are we going to solve the decision tonight, or is this something that we need to provide information and let the province make their decision on how this works out.
Seek his input.
I will try giving my perspective on it. Is 25 okay with you? Or what would you want as your number? Is the way I'm reading this. And that there's the good possibility, if there's reasons that it shouldn't be 25, I think there's the good possibility that with Councillor Hallahan and Vauden saying something in the middle between 0 and 25, be it 10 or 12, I think that is something that could be backed up as a logical alternative. And I think there's a good possibility that some kind of alternative under certain populations would be looked at. Is that at all the way you see it, Richard?
Yeah, it is somewhat vague, as you mentioned there, Councillor Syke. The way I interpreted it was that they're talking, they may be able to consider exemptions on a one-off basis. So if we think that, you know, a certain population level, say just throw out our population, would be a level for an exemption, that perhaps they would consider granting that on a one-off basis to those who apply. That's the way I interpreted it, but it could just be that they're going to take all of that information and compile it and make a decision that's widespread.
The one thing that I look at is East Wallanosh and Blythe. If the population of each of them is around 1,000, you're looking at 850 electors. So that 25 in comparison to 800, I think would be how you would say for lobbying for something less than the 25. And that where you're into thousands of electors, in even where we still are elected in wards, I don't think it would matter the same, but you're getting into a certain percentage if you're asking for 25 out of 800. Councillor Knott.
Yeah, I read this as basically they're looking for input here. And that, you know, they're going to come up with when I read this, what I look at is they're going to come up with a number based on the input they get. Whether that's 5,000 or 10,000. And it's not going to be based on wards, it's going to be based on the whole municipality. So if you have a municipality of less than 5,000 people, say, then you could apply and say, we want to exempt from that, and the whole municipality would be exempt. Wingham, Blythe, everybody. And that's what they're looking at. But when I read this, I read it like it has the authority to provide an exemption from the requirement. So they'll only provide it if you ask them to. That they're not just going to come up with a blanket municipalities. They might, but the way I read this, they're looking at 5,000 people or less. You don't have to do that. Municipalities of greater, because a rural municipality like ours, if you think about it for a minute, somebody needs Wallanosh, how far do they have to travel around to get that 25 names? That's, you know, versus a guy in the city of Toronto or Brampton, and we walk down the street before he gets to the Freddy's variety store, he's got his 25 names. So is it a burden? Yeah, that's a burden right there, I think, for some of these people. And I look at Blind and I see all these people that they're hiring at the Cowbell Brewery and all the plans they've got and so on. And a lot of these people are coming from other areas. So you may be missing out on somebody who is very brand new, could be 6 months in the, but might have municipal experience from somewhere else that would be valuable, and to preclude them because they just don't have the time or whatever circumstance to get out there and get that 25 names, we're cutting them off the pass.
Councillor Slate.
And nobody has really answered my question. My question was, how are we getting the information back to the province? Are we individually or as a council sending the information back? That's what was my question.
I would believe it would be received and given more precedence if it was through a council motion from the clerk.
That's all I wanted to know.
So do we lay it on Richard to put the letter together, or?
We have to decide.
Get a resolution as to what we want to do. Is anybody ready to make? Deputy Reeve?
I'll make a motion that we ask for an exemption because of the size of our municipality. It's pretty hard to put a number on it as far as,
Okay, point two. Is that
They're
enough?
asking for a number.
I think they're asking two questions.
Yeah.
They're asking two questions. I think in your motion, you should try and address both. The first question is, do you believe it's a hardship or not?
Yes.
And the second one, if it is a hardship, what would be the appropriate number in this council's opinion? And those are the two questions.
Okay,
well,
you're saying it's a hardship.
I'm saying it's hardship, and I would say 10 if you want to have a number, I'll put a number of 10 in that you have in mind.
10,000?
No, 10.
Then that's not what they're asking for. They want to know the number of electors in a municipality. So 5,000 or 10,000. That's what it says.
But
What number of electors is the municipality's appropriate threshold for the exemption to apply?
Municipality with less than the prescribed number of electors.
So if, I agree, that's exactly what they're asking. And if you're thinking about this municipality being exempt, and if you went to 5,000 or 6,000, you would achieve that.
5,000 electors,
Electors.
below 5,000 electors,
Would be exempt.
as part of the motion.
Yes, I'll agree with that.
You want that in?
Second.
Okay, Councillor Knott seconds. Discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion? Carried, 4. Anybody want a recorded vote on that? Okay. Move on. Moving to council reports. That I attended the AMO convention last Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I know that Councillor Knott was there and Deputy Reeve Campbell. Councillor Knott and I attended a couple of sessions, being the same sessions. And I'm waiting on the transcribed things because I did not take notes at the time. It's easier to pay attention and listen, so I'm not going to make further comments on that now. There's a number of other things, such as Huron County plowing match that I was involved with on Friday, but that's not council business, so I will move to letting councilors make comments on things that they have attended. Councilor Sykes.
I just wanted to pass along that the volunteers are still needed for this Friday between 8 and 5 in order to put some sweat equity in to install the last portion of the playground equipment at Maitland River. So if anybody is available to do that, they can get a hold of Teresa or Carrie Ann at the Building Bridges, and they will make sure that they get you on the list and provide you the necessary information, what you need, supplies and stuff that you need, make sure that your safety is all there. So so that's an important step for the group. So hopefully we can, they've got enough, it sounds like they've got enough for Thursday, and I'll be there on Friday to slug something. Hopefully it's not too heavy. But it's going to be a good couple of days, and hopefully it'll be all finished in time for school.
Thank you. Deputy Reeve Campbell.
I also attended the AMO conference. They had a lot of good reports this year on the rural, a lot of the sessions, there were a lot of good sessions on rural activities and how to get the best out of them. And I tried to attend as many of those as I possibly could. So I will, as soon as some of the stuff comes back, I will try and get some information for you.
Councilor Knott.
It wasn't me too, but I was there.
I seen you.
That was Saturday, wasn't it?
There were a number of really interesting sessions. Reeve and I attended one, which I think we're going to have to pursue a little bit with regard to renewable resources. It was very interesting, and I think there may be an opportunity for the municipality. So that's something that I'm going to bring the information and the leads that I brought back with me to senior members and give it to them so they can look into it. We'll probably have to have a motion before council for them to look into it, but I'll give them the information so they can prepare a little more background for you. So there were a couple of good things there. I will say that I'll give my personal opinion, how disappointed I was in the speeches from our fearless party leaders. And quite literally, I found this Wynn's speech to very uninformative. I personally feel that the Liberal Party and some of their motions, especially the minimum wage and not so much the minimum wage, but the subsequent requirements of pay equity that are attached to it are devastating, especially to the agricultural industry. And I don't think people realize that we're a very heavy agricultural municipality ourselves. There are portions of that are going to strike very hard at farmers and the requirements for them to reach those pay equity positions. It is going to be hard on us. And make no mistake, there were no apologies from the Liberal government or from Ms. Wynn for some of these policies, and no indication that they were going to even reconsider any portion thereof. And they were simply doing a wonderful job, and we're going to just forge ahead regardless without listening to the people. And now we have various agricultural groups that are stepping in now that they've realized what's going to happen. Between that and cap and trade, it's been a very costly year for agriculture in this province. So I was disappointed to hear that they were not going to change their ways. Ms. Horvath got up and flatly refused to give any indication of what platform they were going to give us, and literally said she had no intention of revealing their platform. I think the interviewer at the time pretty much said, well, I guess you don't have one. So who knows? Mr. Brown got up and made his speech, and not that he gave explicit answers to every question or some of the things, but at least made certain commitments to pursue different avenues and to take into consideration some of the things that have been brought up by other groups, industry and agriculture, as far as we go forward. So it's going to be a very interesting election by the sound of the speeches. So enjoy it. It's going to be fun come next June. Anybody wish to run?
Jeff, how many signatures do you need?
You don't need any.
Provincial, it's 25 for all the parties that I know of.
Yeah. Pretty.
And the misnomer that really sucked Councillor Knott and myself into the renewable energy was they were talking about rutabagas. Not once in the session did they use that word.
Turnips.
No,
No.
Oh, they used the word rutabaga.
no. It was just a hook to get us there. To talk about other things, and that, as Bill said, we will bring further stuff back to staff and to council. But that's how tricky some of these sessions are. They are purposely mislabeled, I think.
I don't think he mislabeled. I think he just couldn't think of another vegetable that went with rutabagas and renewable energy, so it was ours. And then when he came in, the consultant that came in, when they got to the door, they were standing, I heard him say, he says, I'm gonna make some jokes about rutabagas, and I turned around and I said, I don't think I'd do that if I were you, because I actually work for one of the third largest rutabaga grower in the province of Ontario, and I live in a municipality where we have the second largest rutabaga grower in Ontario, who between us, we represent probably close to 50% of all the rutabagas grown in the province, and I suggest you don't make any jokes. And he stood there and looked at me and he realized I was just pushing him. It was a very interesting presentation about renewable energy, and there are opportunities. That's why I said there's some opportunities that may present itself for us as municipalities. However we got it, so it was good.
Yeah. Okay, moving forward to bylaws. Bylaw 79, 2017. Being a bylaw to authorize the Regional Clerk to sign on behalf of council a lease agreement with the Avon-Maitland District School Board for before and after school. And to be introduced, read a first, second, third, and final time, signed by the Regional Clerk and be engrossed in the bylaw book. Do I have Councillor Wadden, Councillor Ritzma-Tenenga, all in favor? Carried. Okay. Any announcements that weren't available at the time of putting it together? Okay, moving to 12.1. Support for the appointment of CAO as administrative member to the OSM Executive Committee. That I will say that I had a good talk with Jamie McGarvey, that's chair of OSM, and that for us to follow through and support Dwayne in this, and that it would be looked at that we would have at least one or two from council go to the OSM convention next year. It is one of the better conventions, and they talk about many of the things that we face, so that it is probably fits even better than Roma with this council, so that I believe it would be prudent to do that. And to have members sitting on the board, it might open a few doors to us. Everybody else has read this over or not? You're moving,
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
and Councillor Vodden seconds. All in favor? Carry. Okay. Closed session is reporting out. Okay. Bylaw number 80, 2017, being a bylaw to confirm generally previous actions of the council of the township of North Huron, being introduced, read a first, second, third, and final time, signed by the reading clerk and engrossed in the bylaw. Councillor Hallahan, Councillor Sype, all in favor? Carried. Anything last minute? Councillor Sype, move adjourn. Second. Deputy Reed Campbell. All in favor? Carried. We're done.